Hi, welcome back to the Peru Sisters podcast. And I'd like to welcome back my co-producer, Gia. Hi, Gia.
Hi.
And today we're doing more updates and commentary, continuing our podcast here on the IDAHO4. And we're going to start with updates to the case. So just for our subscribers, we want to make sure that you have the most recent and most accurate court updates. And we thought we'd bring in Lawyer You Know because he's a trusted YouTube creator, and Gia and I both like him.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring this up, and as we go, we're going to pause and just give you our thoughts, if anything, for a few things that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
To hear. So this is the amended order governing the courthouse and courtroom conduct. A while back, we didn't know if there were going to be cameras, if media was going to be allowed in this courtroom because of how it may be affecting Bryan Kohberger's rights to a fair trial as a criminal defendant. The judge said there will be cameras, there will be media allowed, but I will control it as the judge. And this is one of the tools in which the court can control the media, the cameras, streaming, things like that. It is through a court order. So this order governs the courthouse and courtroom conduct and media activities in this case. This order shall supersede any prior order governing courthouse and courtroom conduct. What does that mean? That means regardless of what was said before, regardless of what was in prior orders, that does not matter anymore. This is the order in place. These are the rules people have to abide by. And you're going to see some things in here that are different, changed rules, additional restrictions, additional clarifications. So
I think that Kiki is having technical difficulties. So I'm going to give her a minute and see if she can get back in. Let me just give her a quick text.
I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, yay. Okay. I was just saying, I think there are little technical difficulties. And
Yeah. All right, let me start this over. So
is there
first
a way
thing
to
we're going to do is turn up the music.
Yes, thank you. It's distracting to me.
I don't know what's going on with StreamYard, but I'm not the only one. A lot of creators are saying that they're feeling bugs with StreamYard, and I'm experiencing them too.
Yeah.
So I keep getting kicked out. So I can't even stop the music. Hey, Jeff. Nice to see you today. Okay, there we go. Let's try this again. So we're beginning with updates to the case, and I'm bringing up Lawyer You Know.
Jeff, I just was going to answer Jeff's question. He said, are they saying they're going to stream the Kohberger trial live to judge's YouTube channel? I did hear that. Have you heard that?
That's exactly what I heard. And actually, we both subscribe to Judge's channel.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I can link down if you folks want. I can put in the description or in the comments below. So, but it is going to be streamed live there. But he'll be the only one that can stream it.
So we can't also stream it from his channel? I'm
going to try covering it live here. So stay tuned. I'll do my best to cover it live during the trial. Both of us will cover it live during the trial. Gia and I will give you good coverage of that. All right, let's start over, and sorry for the sloppiness, folks.
Order. That is what he is trying to do, and he sets it out right here in the opening paragraph. The constitutional right of the defendant to a fair hearing. That's the first right, and what we said was potentially most important. Second, the public's right to information in conjunction with the constitutional and statutory rights of the media to attend the proceedings. So the public has a right. Number three, the court's interest in maintaining order and an environment that permits all participants to focus on their responsibilities without undue distractions. I like it. And number four, the court's interest in the safety of the public and court personnel and the need to follow all Idaho Supreme Court orders as may be changed or amended from time to time. So the public's interest, any witnesses or interested parties, the courts, the defendant, the media, he's trying to balance it all. And here we go. It is hereby ordered. Courtroom seating and attendance. He's also focusing on the victim's rights here with A, seating for victims' families, counsels, defendant's family, and court personnel. Certain seating may be reserved for counsel, authorized court personnel, the defendant's family, and the victims' families. So if any of the victims want to show up to a hearing, they can have reserved seatings. If you or I want to go, we probably aren't going to get reserved seating. B, the general public and media seating. The public and members of the media may be permitted in the courtroom as space permits on a first come, first served basis. No person may reserve seats. No standing in the courtroom will be allowed. So it's not going to be a zoo. We're not going to have people making a commotion, yelling, standing, affecting the proceedings with what they're doing. It's first come, first serve for media and public. Whoever's there in time gets to sit. If you're not, maybe they'll have an overflow room or something like that, or you can watch the live stream, but you will not be permitted to come and save seats for all your friends. Seating in front of the bar, meaning the participants, basically. No person other than the court personnel designated by the court, the defendant, and counsel and their assistants shall be permitted to sit in front of the bar of the courtroom without specific authorization by the court. So you got to ask before you do something like that. Entry and exit during court proceedings. Spectators, including members of the media and the public, shall be seated before court is in session during any portion of a hearing. No entry or re-entry to the courtroom shall be permitted while court is in session. No movement around the courtroom will be allowed during court proceedings. Now, my guess is there's going to be exceptions if the state or the defense have to send an investigator or paralegal out to go grab something, call somebody, see if the next witness is there. But generally speaking, this is more like, it says spectators. Sorry, it says spectators. So yeah, this is more like media members can't go out to send an email or a tweet and come back in. More on that later, because we don't want the disruptions in the courtroom. That's the point. We don't want anything taken away from what is going on in court, because that's the right the public and the media have. General restrictions and requirements. So again, here are some additional restrictions and some requirements and some clarifications of prior orders. Security screening. All persons entering the courtroom are subject to security screening. No food, beverage, firearm, or other weapons are permitted in the courthouse. All handbags, backpacks, or purses are prohibited in the courtroom. Any personal property items are subject to inspection. Cell phones. Here's the big one to focus on. B. Cell phones are permitted inside the courthouse, but they must be turned off, not in airplane mode, not silenced, not on vibrate, but off and stowed out of view. Now, whether you agree with this or not, or think this is too much of a restriction, what I like about it is in black and white, and there's no misunderstanding. You should not be confused. If anybody sees your cell phone, it's a problem because it should be out of view. If your cell phone rings or buzzes, that's a problem because it should be turned off, and it cannot ring or buzz when it's turned off. He left no gray area with this. Now, I think there are ways to use cell phones respectfully in court. Sometimes people abuse that, so I get where he's coming from, but I do like how he set it out very clearly. During the proceeding and any court recess, while inside the courtroom. So it doesn't matter if they're in session or on recess. If you're inside the courtroom, off and out of view. Cell phones shall not be used. And here he's going to give a different or additional clarification just in case turned off and out of view is not clear enough. Because while it's off and out of view, you also can't, in your purse, hiding it while it's off, which is impossible. You can't do the following: text, email, record, transmit audio, images, or written accounts of the proceedings to platforms such as Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, blogs, or other similar platforms or websites while inside the courtroom.
Okay, I want to pause right there. I just want to bring up something I read on X that I thought you'd find interesting. So the people on X were talking about kind of tongue-in-cheek, like, what could we do for workarounds after reading this? And one of the things they said they might do is save, because they have to allow for notes to be taken in the courtroom on their laptops. And some people on X were saying they were going to save their notes to Google Docs and then have the doc be shared and then have people live tweet that. So I think that he's right. Like, I've really listened to him say this a couple times, and I feel like the judge has excluded a lot of workarounds, right, like that. Do you have any reactions while I have this pause? Do you want to share right now, Gia?
Yeah, no, I think that he's being very diligent in making sure that he's dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, and that he's getting his point out there that it will only be live streamed from his channel, and that's it. And he doesn't want to make this a circus and have it be, it was like with the OJ trial, there was all kinds of stuff leaking out, and I think he's doing the right thing. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think he's thinking a lot of mitigating circumstances. It's interesting to see how he's navigating this in our modern
social. Yes, definitely.
All right, let's hit the play button here.
No live tweeting, no texting people, no emailing people so they can live tweet, no taking pictures and sending them out, no taking video or audio recordings and sending them out to people, no taking audio recordings or pictures to use them later in your blogs, because you cannot use your phone for that while they're turned off and out of view. So that is going to affect some of the way the media can do their job, but there will be a live stream. Take screenshots, be creative, use video from the court's live stream. Cell phones may only be used out.
I just wanted to pause too. We want to just quickly, I think this is an interesting question that Jeff has posed, and it's like blocking your face. I don't know why it's like that. That's rearranging it.
It's okay.
But I thought about it too, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring up this video, is because a lot of people are saying, well, is this a way for them to hide things? Like, could they cut the stream out when a certain witness comes up, or when they want to show a video? And I guess my question for you, Gia, you might be able to answer is, let's just say there's a scenario where they want to show a video. Could they technically not allow the audience at the court to see it and only show it to the jury? Or does it all have to be public, whatever they're presenting to the people present there?
I think it all has to be public. I've never heard of anything like that where they're kind of almost like sequester the jury somewhere and show them something where everybody in the, not audience, but in the courtroom, because of our justice system, right? All trials are public. So I don't think they could do that. And I don't think they would do that.
What about sidebars? Are those always private, or are they privy to the conversation that happens in sidebar?
You mean like when they approach the bench?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's just between the judge and, I mean, if they don't, usually you can't hear it. And when I've been in court, the judge usually like shuts off the microphone or puts the hand over and they speak in low voices. And sometimes they'll meet in chambers. So there are sidebars that are private, and that typically it's because there's a question and they're not sure if they can present something. And so it's not, if you can't unring a bell, right?
Right.
So they don't want the jury to hear it. And there's reason for that, because it's up to the judge what the jury hears and doesn't hear.
Can you see a question from Jason below? I wonder if we will hear each witness, or if the judge will cut the feed in certain situations.
You know what? We don't know. This judge seems to be very on top of it. And I think if he could do it legally, he might, but I don't see the reason for that.
Agreed.
Yeah. I don't think they'll cut it, because how is he going to decide what should be cut and what shouldn't before he hears it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if it was in this video we're about to hit play again. I do believe there was something mentioned about if there was like a confidential informant.
Oh, yeah.
But let's play this, and if he doesn't touch base on it, we'll elaborate a little bit more.
Outside of the courtroom, which you're not going to be able to take pictures of Bryan Kohberger if you're outside the courtroom. You're not going to be able to take pictures of any victims or witnesses or anything like that if you're outside the courtroom. So the court will control the types of images and media that's taken inside the courtroom. I like it. Violation of this rule may result in confiscation of the phone by the court, a bailiff, or other court personnel. They can and will take your phone. Now, what will they do with it? How long will they keep it? Who knows? But don't test it, people. Don't violate a court order, because there could be other sanctions for violating court orders.
Wait, what
other electronic devices? Computers, laptops, or other similar devices are.
What other sanctions could there be other than them taking their phone? What could they do to you if you violate?
Because you're in contempt of court, so you all the way up to jail time. If you're in contempt, because what he's saying is that's a judge's order, and if you violate a judge's order, then you're in contempt, and then the judge can order whatever they want. I doubt they're going to put you in jail, but what he's saying is, like, let's say you violate it and they take your phone, and then you come up with another phone and you do. They might to teach you a lesson, but they have the ability to do that. Definitely.
Permitted in the courtroom. All right. Just want to make sure I didn't check my mic before I started, which would have been a real bummer. And other similar devices are permitted in the courtroom for note taking only, and may only be used in a manner that does not interfere with the court proceedings.
Can
Cameras
I
and microphones on.
You guys hear that?
Yeah. I just can't see it anymore, but I can hear his voice, but I can't see the video.
Yeah, I need to get it together today. Here we go. There we go.
There he is.
Hello.
Electronic devices must be disabled while inside the courtroom. So again, he's controlling the media that they can have, but he doesn't want you taking notes on your phone. To me, a big laptop, all right, computer is more of a disruption than taking notes on your cell phone. So if he's going to allow him to have the laptops open, to me, I would have said no computers or laptops, only phones for note-taking purposes. But I also understand technology in 2024 now that it's easier to hide or sneak stuff on your phone than it is a computer. A lot more capabilities on most phones than computers, and to hide it and do things in secret. So I do understand that as well. But if you want to take notes to send later, you can do it on your computer, not your phone, or of course, the old-fashioned way, by hand.
Yep.
Electronic devices shall not be used to email, chat, record, or transmit audio, images, or written accounts of the proceedings to platforms such as Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, blogs, or other similar platforms or websites while inside the courtroom. So other similar platforms or websites basically covers everything. So it's including but not limited to. Violation of this rule may result in confiscation of your device by the court, bailiff, or other court personnel. Disruptive behavior. Any activity or behavior which is considered disruptive by the court will result in removal from the courtroom. Any spectator who creates a visual or auditory disturbance of the court proceeding may be removed from the court and or the building at any time at the discretion of the court security personnel. Maybe means they won't necessarily, but don't have disruptive behavior. They can and will throw you out. Warnings loud and clear, so there shouldn't be any misunderstanding or gray area where somebody is surprised if they get thrown out. Coverage. How are we going to get to see it? Video recording, still photography, audio recording prohibited. No video recording, still photography, or audio recording is permitted by members of the media or the public as ordered by the court in the November 17, 2023 order. A live stream of the proceedings. So this is saying, so you can't do it with your phones or your computers, but you can't do it with cameras either. You can't bring the old Polaroid in and take some pictures. We can't do that. We're checking all the boxes across the board. Can't do that stuff. A live stream of the proceeding will be provided by the court and will be available in real time. That's interesting. Real time, not delayed later, which is different than they did it before, if I'm reading this correctly.
That's different than they did before. What did they put out a pre-recorded session on? Do you remember where they put out?
Yeah, no, I don't remember, but I think what he's saying is we didn't get to see it as it was happening. We saw it as it was like recorded and then shown. So I don't know if he's talking about the arraignment hearing, like
Or
saying,
maybe just,
yeah, I don't know what, but he's just saying this is going to happen in real time. Like the old court TV.
That's awesome, actually.
On the court's YouTube page found at, write down that YouTube page if you want to follow it. I'm sure there will be streamers streaming it from that YouTube page. We will be doing reactions and recaps from that YouTube page.
Oh, yes.
The media and the public may capture and use the live stream video and audio footage. So we can use it. But we are strictly prohibited from altering the footage in any way, including zooming in on the defendant.
Oh,
Interesting. So how is he going to restrict members of the media from doing that?
what is Gia? Could that mean that we're not allowed to take still images from it, or cut it up, or do a short out of it?
No, I don't think it means that. It just means you can't alter it for as it's right. So if you did a short, you can't change it so that it's, like, I don't think you can slice in like this piece to this piece. He doesn't want you coming up with your own,
Artistic.
Yeah, like just basically it is what it is. My question, I wonder if we'll be able to capture the live stream as it's happening and show it on our channel.
I really think that's what he just said. He just said others will be live streaming it too.
Yeah, you can. I guess you can. But if you do, it has to come from his channel.
Yeah, that's how I do it always. And that's how I did the live coverage of the demolition. We'll definitely be covering this. Gia and I will be
absolutely
every minute of this trial for you guys. It's kind of cool to get that confirmation for you. Miss Smith just said, when we were talking about how it was covered before, she said she thinks it was delayed a few hours. And now that I'm thinking back, I think that's how it was too. We were waiting to hear what happened at that 1 o'clock hearing back in October. I remember.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. We're only going to play about another minute or two of this.
So like if TMZ wants to zoom in on Kohberger's fly, like how does the court stop that? What court order or sanctions would he throw down? That's interesting. And just in case anybody's wondering, pulling clips, pausing, reacting, and commenting on those is not altering the footage. Live broadcasting, transmitting, or streaming by the media and the public from inside the courtroom is prohibited, but not from outside. We're allowed to stream it. If somebody wants to do that on YouTube, that's permitted. We're outside the courtroom. These prohibitions include during recess in the court proceedings. Again, he's trying to cover all bases.
Yeah.
A portion of proceedings that will not be live streamed. The court-operated live stream coverage of the proceedings will not include audio or video of closed hearings, private bench conferences, meaning sidebars. Sometimes we heard some, sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we heard them later. We're not going to hear these. Between the court and counsel, we know what sidebars are at this point, but in case you're new here, when the lawyers object or something needs to be argued outside the presence of a jury or the public or the witness, they will approach the bench. The lawyers and the court will discuss something. The court will then make a decision. We won't hear that private argument. Conferences between the attorneys and the client, or conferences among counsel. So yes, we shouldn't hear counsel talking to each other, or of course, Kohberger talking to his counsel. The video and audio recordings may be stopped or paused at any time by order of the court to protect sensitive witnesses, exhibits, members of a trial jury, or for any other reason the court deems necessary pursuant to this rule.
Boom. That's that. Okay. So that gets back to Jason's question.
So I don't know if it's, but I've seen where, like, if they're showing the crime scene photos, sometimes they'll shield that from the public.
Gosh, it's funny you bring that up. We've been talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, the jury has to see, obviously, but they can say, you know, it's not really necessary. It's kind of egregious. So they could shield the photos from public view.
Do they normally, like in a normal trial, do they show those pictures publicly to the rest of the viewing audience, or is that normally just shown?
Yeah, because if the lawyer is up there doing an exhibit, a lot of times they'll put them up on a big screen or on a something. So no, they would be shown. But I think what he's saying is he's going to reserve the right to shield some of that if necessary. And I don't think anything but just of a sensitive nature. Like to your point earlier, if it's say it's a witness, but they're in the witness protection program and their identity needs to be secured, right? Then maybe that's something that they wouldn't show on the live stream, but we'd hear the voice, or they might do a voice changer or that kind of thing.
I'm going to just go back. I just want to hear that last 10 seconds there of what they might cut out.
They will approach the bench. The lawyers and the court will discuss something. The court will then make a decision. We won't hear that private argument. Conferences between the attorneys and the client, or conferences among counsel. So yes, we shouldn't hear counsel talking to each other, or of course, Kohberger talking to his counsel. The video and audio recordings may be stopped or paused at any time by order of the court to protect sensitive witnesses, exhibits, members of a trial jury, or for any other reason the court deems necessary pursuant to this rule. So that means if there's a witness that is a victim, is underage, is an undercover officer, informant, whatever, the court can say, you know what, we're stopping the live stream right now. The court always could do that, but he's just making it clear that that can and may be used in this case. Mm-hmm. Interviews, reporting, and vehicle parking. News conferences, interviews, or reporting is prohibited inside the courtroom or courthouse common areas, meaning the hallways, things like that. News conferences, interviews, or reporting in the courthouse parking lot or on courthouse grounds is allowed as set forth by the Latah County Parking and Media Access Map.
I'm going to stop right there. That's just interesting because it gives us what it's going to look like when people report. We're not going to see anything in the hallway. Right. You know, it's going to look either outside the courtroom, or people will, just so we know what our backdrop's going to look like. We're getting a clearer picture now.
Attached to this order. Any news conferences, interviews, or reporting from the courthouse grounds shall be done in a manner not to impede foot traffic, obstruct access to the courthouse, or interfere with the daily operations of Latah County. Probably not giving tours during the hours the court is open. Media vehicle parking is allowed as set forth in the map. In addition to any interviews, media reporting, or media parking shall be subject to any additional orders by the court. Media inquiries. Media inquiries and communications regarding these matters shall be directed to Nate Popino, the court communications manager for the Idaho Supreme Court.
You can stop there. Okay, so I'm glad we went through the whole video because I think it's important that we all, there's a lot of documents dumped recently, and I think this kind of gets us up to speed, or at least anyone who's just following this on my channel, at least it gets you up to speed on what's going on for our next steps. Before we go on to our first segment of commentary, do you have some more comments you'd like to leave about the court proceedings right now, Gia?
No, I just think these orders are interesting because they're preparing for this trial. And when did they say they think it's going to be? This summer?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were saying 6 months from
Yeah.
about 2 weeks ago. They announced that. There were a couple questions in here. Just maybe we could try and. So it says you can't control that. We're allowed to take screenshots and live tweets from his live feed. This is crazy controlling. Nothing normal with this trial. Is this abnormal, Gia? From your, just give us a little perspective on this. Do you feel like this is an abnormal request?
This is all because it's been sensationalized. This wouldn't normally you wouldn't see a judge go to these lengths. But I think with everything, and there's so many people reporting on YouTube and podcasts and different things that it's really taking on a life of its own. Even one that with the last one that was so sensationalized, in my opinion, really was like the OJ. We always go back to the OJ trial, and so does Judge. But we didn't have all the social media. That was a time when AOL was just coming out and dial-up modems were so. They didn't have these platforms. So I think what he's worried about is I think that all of this is also because if Bryan Kohberger is convicted, he's going to appeal, and you're trying to preempt all the appeals that could happen, right? So he's laying out the groundwork. I think this will be normal going forward, probably for these big cases or these publicly sensationalized cases. But yeah, I see the point of who said
Let me bring it back to
that
Beth.
was just up. I don't know, but
Right here.
Bathory. And to her point, he really can't control it. He can say it, but is he going to go after every single person that tweeted after and hold them in contempt of the order? Doubtful. So I think her point is people are going to do it anyway. And the lawyer, is saying, be respectful, follow the order. Listen, don't push it,
Yeah, because the judge clearly states he's reserved the right to, and he had it anyway, to tighten these things up or to take any of these rights away if somebody abuses it.
Right.
He really said that.
Yeah.
Jeff had an interesting comment here too. I thought, I don't know the answer to this, but I wanted to show it to you.
I don't know that either, but I mean, I'm familiar with that trial. But he's probably right that that's how they did it.
I seem to remember that because I remember somebody saying that during that trial, or I remember the judge commenting on that trial that they were zooming in on the defendant, or they just camera straight on her the entire time, and that does, sway public perception. I think in a way, if you analyze it through a microscope.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And as Miss Smith said, Judge is terrified this will turn into the OJ trial, and I agree with her because he refers to it quite often. He refers to it as the circus that it was, and I just think he's trying to protect his courtroom from having that happen, because the judge in the OJ case, he was kind of a media whore, so to speak. I don't know. he loved the media, and he was giving interviews, and he was a little nutty. But I think Judge doesn't want that to happen to him or his courtroom.
Let's see, one more from Beth here. I'm not even sure if they use cameras in our courtrooms. I think maybe only from trial to the courtroom, so they don't walk over.
Only from jail to the courtroom, so they don't.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't understand the comment. I'm not even sure they use cameras in our courtrooms. Any courtroom I've been in has cameras and audio.
So even like a local like our local
court, sure.
Court.
Yeah,
I would think so too, but
family court, they do everything. Well, I can't speak for every single courtroom in the country, but I know I'm in Maryland, and all the courtrooms they're highly sensitive audio. So you're told that everything is being recorded and everything you say, even in a very low whisper, is going to be heard.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, but they don't allow, there's signs up in all the courtrooms that you're not allowed to videotape or anything or record. So the court can, but the participants cannot.
Jeff, you're hitting the nail right on the head, especially with this comment right here. I think the judge sees how the public scrutinizes anything and everything regarding this Idaho case. The judge can at least minimize strife over the video of the trial, making it a fair trial for all. Yeah, you couldn't paraphrase this whole situation better, I don't think. And I've said in my comments to some people, at this point, we're so deep into this gag order. Releasing it now would just cause people to pick apart this trial in maybe unfair ways to the state. I even feel. I don't want to. Yeah. So hold on, a couple more here. Gia, you've got one from Beth.
Yeah, I don't know what camera she's talking about outside.
Must be in the hallways.
The deputies don't have to walk over the inmates.
I wonder.
Walk them over to the courtroom from the jail. Is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking that's what she's saying. Is in the courtrooms the only places. If I'm reading this right, Beth, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're trying to say that the only place you've seen the cameras and the courtrooms in your area would be in the hallways to make as the inmates are going or the defendants are going in and out of the court. Is that? But I just can't imagine this day and age that a judge wouldn't want a camera over him, protecting him at all times, recording what's going on. But I don't know. Then again, I am new to the true crime world. So.
Right. Okay. So I think, and then Beth said they put a screen in the courtroom and the inmate stays at the jail. So I think those are in cases where if the inmate, they don't feel safe having the inmate in the courtroom, and maybe the deputies don't feel safe walking the inmates from the jail to the courtroom. So I think this is in like maybe a slightly different scenario because Bryan Kohberger is going to be there, and he comes up from he doesn't come through the main hallways anyways. He's in the jail underneath.
I remember a friend of mine got arrested and she got put into jail. This is like 20 years ago, but we were in the city of Concord where in New Hampshire, where there's a more serious prison than where she was put in state prison. And it was scary, and they wouldn't let her out. They made her do a video arraignment the next morning. She had to spend the night in there and do a video arraignment. And I wonder if it depends on where you are.
Yeah, probably.
That's a state prison. That's not Valley Street, right?
No, that Concord State Prison. That one. That's a supermax prison they have there. That's a serious prison.
Oh, it's scary. I'll never forget her little face pressed up at the window with the crazy person. They put her like.
Yeah, it was. My criminology professor in college was the ex-warden of that prison, and he took us there for a field trip, and it was scary.
It was, it was scary just visiting there.
Mm-hmm.
Dan. Oh, excuse me. Oh, Jeff, should we give you a link? We have a whole show planned, but if you've got some scoops, we definitely want you up here. Okay, but I also don't have distrust or disdain for law enforcement like many I see.
Oh. I don't either.
Yeah, I don't have any distrust. I think that I'm going to touch base on it during my segment after Gia's, but I've definitely gained a lot of skepticism since I've seen that house torn down, but that's not necessarily directed at the people who are trying to protect us.
Right. Right.
Not necessarily what I'm, but my skepticism doesn't, I hope anyone doesn't think that's directed at the people who are doing their best to protect us in this world.
Right. No.
All right. Jeff, if you do, let us know. We're going to move on to the next segment. Gia's going to really present a pretty interesting article we have. Get it pulled up here and we'll tell you a little bit more.
What are you doing?
I'm pulling up the oops, this one,
My article.
yeah, your article. This is this is printed in Business Insider, and I'm gonna let Gia set this up, and I'm just gonna move the screen as she goes so that you guys can hear what she has to say.
Okay, so this was I had just come across and researching this article the other day, and I shared it with Kiki because I thought it's about a year old, so it's not new information, but I really liked it because it brings up a lot of things that were just shortly after the unalivings occurred, the tragedy, and it just has some things that we may want to revisit as we go along researching this. But anyway. Idaho murders, mysteries linger in Moscow weeks after Bryan Kohberger's arrest. As students return for spring semester, this small college town in wheat farming country is still grappling with the brutal killings of 4 vivacious University of Idaho students. A shrine of teddy bears, flowers, and a framed photo collage still stands in front of the 3-story home near campus where 3 female residents and a male visitor were fatally stabbed in the early morning of November 13th. On Main Street, a table in front of Mad Greek, a restaurant where 2 of the victims worked, holds 4 white candles, each bearing the name of the victim. Madison Mogan, 21, a senior in marketing from Coeur d'Alene, I don't know how to pronounce that, I apologize, Idaho, about 1.5-hour drive north of Moscow, was remembered for treasuring her friends and dreaming of world travel, according to interviews conducted by Insider and reports published in other outlets. Kaylee Gonzalez, 21, was excited for her planned post-graduation move to Austin, Texas, to begin a marketing career. Ethan Chapin, 20, of Conway, Washington, was remembered for his bright smile, sense of humor, and, as a triplet, a love of playing sports with his siblings. Xana Kernodle, 20, who grew up in Idaho and Arizona, was remembered for loving her independent life in college and for her fierce spirit. A server at Mad Greek, the restaurant where Mogan and Kernodle worked, and the other victims visited, wore a ribbon on her school's black and yellow colors to honor her friends. So sweet, so friendly, said the young woman who asked Insider to not use her name. Candles for the victims were placed outside Mad Greek in downtown Moscow. Nate Schweber, after a nearly 7-week manhunt, questions about what could have motivated someone to harm the students grew even more pitched after the police finally arrested a suspect on December 30th. Despite attempts to make sense of the killings, a motive remains elusive weeks later, and questions have mounted about why one of the surviving roommates waited until just before noon to call police after she'd seen a masked man in her home around 4 a.m. Timing of the 911 call. The police say Dylan Mortensen, one of the 2 surviving roommates, heard what she thought was crying around the time of the alleged murders, and a male voice she didn't recognize saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." She told authorities that she went to her door and saw a man dressed in black and wearing a ski mask coming toward her and froze, but that after he exited through a backsliding glass door, she locked her own bedroom door and went back to bed. She finally called 911 at 11:58 a.m., after first calling friends over to ask what to do about finding one of her roommates not moving, according to early news reports citing police sources. And then there was the haziness surrounding the grisly discovery. Confusion ensued in the hours before the police were called, said another neighbor who identified herself as the best friend of one of the surviving roommates and asked not to be named for privacy reasons. She said she came to the house soon after the crime was discovered and learned from the surviving roommates, Mortensen and Bethany Funk, that someone on the 2nd floor wasn't moving. She said she first presumed the person had ingested, quote, something from someone that was laced, end quote. It wasn't until later that she learned 4 people she knew had been stabbed and were not unconscious but dead. When I was out there that day, I wasn't comprehending, she said, and I'm still not. A memorial sits outside the home where 4 University of Idaho students were killed in November. A party house. The victim's hilly campus adjacent neighborhood, crammed with large and small apartment buildings, plus family homes with rooms rented by students, was known as a party zone. a friend and neighbor of the victims, who said they often visited the gray 3-story home with the large balcony and a barbecue and a sofa in the backyard, described it as a normal girl party house. Several residents of a large brick apartment building next door described disruptive late-night parties with loud country music and numerous visitors coming and going through an unlocked door. Police were called to respond to complaints of loud parties at the house 3 times since August, according to reports obtained by Insider. A Lyft driver, Vincent Sheets, said he'd started refusing to pick up or drop off anyone in the vicinity of the house on party nights because he'd experienced incidents in which his car was hit with vomit and people threw objects while he was driving. He said he previously worked as a caterer at several University of Idaho fraternity and sorority houses, and he couldn't take it. The amount of drugs and alcohol in this was mind-fucking boggling, he told Insider, so I quit. Gonzalez was a member of the Alpha Phi sorority. Kernodle and Mogan were members of Pi Beta Phi, and Chapin was a member of Sigma Chi. The sororities were on probation at the University of Idaho in the weeks after the killings for health and safety violations. According to the university's Greek Life website, health and safety violations are about concerns regarding risk management, alcohol, drugs, or hazing. Traumatized and scrutinized. In Moscow, some of the victims' neighbors speculated that Mortensen might have been intoxicated at the time of the killings and therefore did not respond appropriately to encountering a strange man in her house. But the house was known for frequent guests and noisiness, in an area known for rowdy parties. Neighbors, too, were used to late-night disturbances. Matthew Moy, 22, a neighbor and a friend of Mortensen's, defended her against criticism. She's been through one of the most traumatic things you can go through, and people are attacking her, he said. When you're in a stressful situation, you might not act how people think. At closing time on a late October weekend, Kaylee Gonzalez hired a Lyft driver, Dakota Kidder, to drive her and Madison Mogan home from a local bar. They had spent their night, as they also would on the night of the murders, at the Corner Club. The popular watering hole is a small windowless haunt made of gray cinder blocks where 20-somethings sip cocktails made from Mike's Hard Lemonade, Twisted Tea, and rum. They were nice. They were not like sloppy drunk or anything. They were great riders, Kidder told Insider. They even tipped. A photo of Bryan Kohberger was removed from a photo display at Washington State University's Wilson Short Hall, where he was working on a PhD in criminology. A disturbing new detail. The suspect in the killings, Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old, 6-foot-tall, 185-pound criminology student who neighbors described as friendly and talkative, was enrolled at Washington State University in nearby Pullman, Washington. Prosecutors say cell phone data shows he made the 22-mile round-trip drive from his apartment to the house where the killings took place no fewer than a dozen times before the murders. But there was no further known connection between the suspect and the victims, and accounts that have surfaced about the suspected killer since his arrest have provided no clear motive or revealed any history that would suggest a propensity to kill. Kohberger's arrest on December 30th, however, triggered talk of a disturbing new detail. For hours before and after the killings, Washington State University police and Whitman County Sheriff's deputies were posted outside the suspect's apartment because of a bloody hit-and-run reported at 11:40 p.m. on November 12th that sent 2 pedestrians to the hospital with serious injuries. Turner Gardner, 26, told Insider that a man had been thrown from the road and a woman lay face down screaming. It was horrifying, she said, of coming upon the scene just before midnight on November 12th. I heard a screech and a loud bang, another witness, Andrea McKenzie, 25, told Insider. It was scary. Within 24 hours, police had Carmen E. Fernandez in custody. The 19-year-old Kappa Delta sorority member was charged with vehicular assault and DUI, according to police and press reports. But first, there was a manhunt, according to local press reports. Cell phone data laid out in court documents shows Kohberger's phone at his home in the early hours of November 13th. A second-story window likely gave Kohberger, who, according to neighbors and court documents, was an insomniac, a view of the scene. It was also within earshot. He left his apartment about 2:42 a.m. on November 13th, according to cellular data and traffic camera footage compiled by prosecutors. His white Hyundai sedan traveling 11 miles to Moscow. Prosecutors say he then committed the grisly murders, leaving behind a knife sheath containing the DNA that would eventually lead to his arrest. By 5:30 a.m., cell tower pings showed his phone back at his home. The police were there the whole time. Jose Mercado, 19, a student who lives in a nearby apartment with a view of both Kohberger's building and the accident scene, told Insider. While authorities had no reason to believe 4 people had been murdered in the neighboring town, it's unclear if the crash had anything to do with the killings or if 2 bloody crime scenes not far from each other was a simple coincidence. It makes you wonder if things could have been different, Faith Grossi, 19, told Insider, standing in a student room with a window facing the hit-and-run scene in Kohberger's apartment. At 9 a.m., Kohberger's phone was on the move again, prosecutors said, and it returned to the scene of the murders before arriving back at his Pullman home at 9:32 a.m. Around noon, about the time Moscow police found the victims and the hunt for the killer began, Kohberger's phone pings indicate that he likely slipped out of his apartment and passed Pullman police once more. A suspect at ease, a community on edge. We're almost done. Kohberger then took a long drive winding through hilly wheat fields and past grain silos and red barns to the confluence of the Snake and Clearwater rivers, according to security camera footage presented by prosecutors. He shopped at an Albertsons grocery store in the town of Clarkston, Washington. His cell phone was next tracked, traveling east for more than an hour towards the Bitterroot Mountains, said prosecutors. He returned, seemingly unnoticed, to Pullman and fell back into his school routine. In addition to his doctoral studies, Kohberger worked as a teaching assistant in the university's criminology department and had even applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department, which would eventually help nab him, according to court documents. The unsolved killings set the campus on edge, with students staying inside, canceling appointments, and even leaving town early out of fear of a killer on the loose. But Kohberger appeared in a notably bright and cheery mood, according to interviews conducted by Insider. One of his students said he stopped grading after the killings, but he also attended a routine medical appointment 4 days later and was so friendly with staff members that they took notice. Kohberger, an arrest but no closure. It would take the police several weeks to identify Kohberger as the suspect. He was arrested at his parents' house in Pennsylvania's Pocono Mountains while visiting for the holidays, after the DNA on the knife sheath found at the crime scene was matched to his father's DNA, which authorities collected from a trash can outside his parents' Pennsylvania home. But the arrest and subsequent affidavit laying out prosecutors' theory of the crime has hardly brought closure. People here still remember where they were when the last murder in Moscow happened nearly a decade ago in 2015, and residents from the towns nearby stood in the cold to watch Kohberger enter the Latah County Jail on January 4th. We're a little town that's really freaked out and in pain, Julia Paskowski, a University of Idaho teacher, said from outside the jail that night. This changed us. And then there's just a update and a correction. Update as of January 18th, 2023. This story has been updated to include the fact that Chapin was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. Okay. Correction. An earlier version of the story misstated disciplinary actions that were taken against Alpha Phi and Pi Beta Phi sororities. They were on probation for health and safety violations, not suspension. And the last correction was, because of an editing error, an earlier version of the story misstated where a knife sheath with Bryan Kohberger's DNA was found. The knife sheath was found inside the home where 4 students were killed, not in the trash can outside. And that's it. I just thought that was a really great synopsis and some details that really hadn't stuck out to me before. So curious what you think.
I totally agree with you. The details that really stuck out with me in this article, and I was so happy that you presented it to me, was it kind of corroborated something that I've been saying that I heard on Chaos Sector, which you all should go check out Chaos Sector when you have a second. It's a YouTube channel where the creators are journalists and writers, and they do their research and present their theories and video. So it's a really thorough channel. They had a segment on where they showed the old 2020 interview of friends and family. It was the first interview after the crime. And they laid out how they can't quite understand why the mainstream reporter didn't push back in 2020 about the girl there said, Katie said that she tried texting Kaylee at 10 a.m. because she heard something was wrong. And a lot of people, we were just on Evil CJ's podcast the other night, and he was saying, you know, if somebody heard about this at 8 a.m., we were talking about the 8:30 time frame, he suggested that it would really, you know, blow up the PCA if that timeline was different. I don't know if it would or if it wouldn't, but what Katie's saying, the reason I bring these things up is because we should pay attention to them. We can't pretend they're not there. They're probably coming out at a trial. You can't imagine Ann Taylor would ignore something that would throw off the timeline or discredit these witnesses. She's going to bring it up. So we can't pretend it's not there. And I went back to try and find that interview after Chaos Sector did it. And that part has been edited out, but I'm not the only one who heard it. Chaos Sector's not the only one that heard it. A lot of people have witnessed that. Even when you go onto 2020's website, it's not there. So I'm sorry to give such a long explanation, but I do feel it's important. And this person is a good reporter who actually went to the source. They went there and they got a source, which is what reporters used to do rather than just online sleuthing. They went there and talked to people. So I think it's a good article, and Business Insider did an excellent job writing it. I don't know anyone else has done the same for that subject.
Yes. Yep.
Let's see if there are any comments pertaining to this here. All right. Any other takes on that you have, Gia, on, you know, you wanted to share before I pull up the other article we have?
No, I think you're good to move on.
Okay. I'm going to, so I chose an article I wanted to read to you today, but I kind of have to set this up for you folks. So everything I'm about to say is my opinion. And I think it's obvious to anyone who's subscribed to my channel. They know that I began being a little bit skeptical about this case when I saw the 1122 King Road home get torn down, because it defied logic. And for me personally, when something defies logic, I continue to process it until I understand. Now, people will tell you that tearing down the house is not detrimental to the case. It's not bad for the case against BK, but nobody is going to say that it's best for the case. And the case against BK, nobody can say that it's better for the case that the house is gone, because that defies logic. The house is the largest piece of evidence. So when the university set a date to tear down this house, we saw MPD prosecution release a statement saying that they had no objection to this. And I kept thinking, what would motivate them to, what would motivate both Moscow PD and the university to not object to having this house torn down? I just didn't see that either of them had similar motives. You know, I couldn't see any sort of connection, but I did a little research following up on some things that I've reported on recently, and I found this really interesting article, and I think there is a connection why both the university and the city of Moscow would oppose this, and the city of Moscow is technically the employer of MPD. So let me pull up this article. Okay. And I'm going to read this to you, and you folks tell me if this is the connection that might explain things. So this article is called University of Idaho Murder Victims' Families Prepare to Sue City of Moscow. The families of murdered University of Idaho students Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan have filed paperwork to reserve their right to sue the city of Moscow, Idaho. Two notices filed with the city on May 3rd and May 11th respectively indicated that the Gonzalez and Mogan families can bring lawsuits against Moscow and seek monetary damages. The documents, first obtained by ABC News, do not say what wrongdoing the plaintiffs may allege. The notices also do not specify the amount of potential damages, leaving it as undetermined at this time. Mogan and Gonzalez, both 21, were among the 4 University of Idaho students savagely stabbed to death outside of their off-campus rental home in the early hours of November 13th. The 2 victims were Xana Kernodle and the 2 other victims were Xana Kernodle and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, both 20 years old. After an intense manhunt lasting more than 6 weeks, police arrested Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology doctoral student at the nearby Washington State University, and charged him with the murders. Kohberger was taken into custody on December 30th after going on a cross-country road trip to Pennsylvania to spend winter holidays with his family. Shannon Gray, an attorney representing the Gonzalez and Mogan families, told ABC News that while his clients have yet to file any lawsuits, the notices protect their legal right to do so within 2 years. It's a safeguard to protect the interests of the families, the victims, and really the whole community around. Because if something goes wrong or was done improperly, then someone is held accountable for that, the lawyer explained. Gray revealed he had also filed notices reserving his client's right to sue the University of Idaho and Washington State University and the Idaho State Police. The news comes days after Kohberger was arraigned on 4 counts of first-degree murder and a charge of felony burglary. When asked how he pleaded to the crimes during a long-awaited hearing, Kohberger stood silent in the courtroom and packed the victims' loved that was packed with the victims' loved ones. Second District Judge John Judge entered a not guilty plea for on Kohberger's behalf. He's set to stand trial on October 2nd. Obviously, this is an older article. If convicted, Kohberger could face life in prison or the death penalty should prosecutors choose to seek it. A decision that they are required to make within 60 days. Gonzalez family, led by her father, Steve, and his attorney, Gray, have been very outspoken throughout the investigation and critical of local police force, suggesting in an interview last year before Kohberger's arrest that the Idaho authorities were in over their heads. And I'm just looking to see if there's any retractions or corrections because it is an older article. Okay. So I just want to bring Gia back up into stage.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the connection that I see, at least financially, that the 2 parties could have, a reason why both of them would not oppose the tearing down of the house for evidence, because not only is the house the largest piece of evidence in this trial, Kohberger versus, city of Moscow or whatever, it's also the biggest piece of evidence should there be another trial if wrongdoing is found. So just throwing it out there. Again, my opinion, just my opinion, personal, non-professional, and any thoughts you have, Gia.
Yeah, no, when I was backstage, I had a little technical difficulty, so I couldn't hear for a bit. So I have to apologize. But no, but I agree with you on that. It's interesting.
There was something interesting in there. You can do this on the fly if you like. My dogs are making noise. Sorry.
Yeah.
But they mentioned in there something about Bryan Kohberger's plea. Is that something you want to talk about right now, or do you want to save that for our next episode?
I'll do that another time because it's kind of lengthy. I had done a slightly deep dive into why would someone stand silent. The only one interesting fact I found out, that's very unique to Idaho. So in Idaho, you have 3 options. You plead guilty, not guilty, or you can stand silent. And so on another time, I would love to delve into what may have been Bryan's motivation for doing that, because what it does is you just don't say anything, and it forces the judge to enter a not guilty plea on your behalf. So yeah, let's do that on another time.
Right. I won't speculate at all, but yeah, stay tuned because like Gia said, she's got a really good deep dive and I can't wait to share with you what she's been telling me. And 1 second, let me just pull this back up. All right. There was one other the one other thing I was going to show, which was that clip that I had that I did from Chaos Sector. Before I do that, is there any other things people in the chat wanted to talk about regarding these 2 articles or anything else before we move on? Just looking here, we see it. It looks like everyone's just talking to themselves.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right, let me get. I just want to make sure I
Side,
didn't miss
sidebar going on in the chat.
That's fine with me. I'm just looking to make sure I didn't miss any questions. That's all.
I know, because it's hard to pay attention. Then I realize I'm reading the comments and I'm not listening over here. So I'm like, I'll go back and look at them all.
Yeah, we always go back and look at our comments, and I'm just pulling up. There we go. All right. Can you hear my dogs? Is
that Rocco or Philly?
It's both of them. They're like wrestling on the floor. They're trying to get my attention because they know the stream is probably almost done. So we're going to just go to my live. I want to play this for you. A lot of people couldn't. I want to just have it up and play it. And if anyone has questions about it, I'll answer it right now. But I'm just trying to show you that this whole thing that I brought up about Chaos Sector fusion and how I feel that this article has been scrubbed about the 10 a.m. phone call. And I just want to play it. So I hope you guys find this intriguing too. Because there is extreme confusion involved in the case. In this next explosive clip, you're going to see one of Kaylee's friends talk about the morning that she was found unalived and the extreme contradiction that was never pushed back by the mainstream media. Take a listen to this explosive soundbite.
I present it this way because Katie's so-called concern contradicts the actual setting at the home. The timelines don't match. If she called around 10 a.m., then this means others had been informed also, perhaps even earlier. We know this based on an actual student's accounts in his interview. But from the media's narrative, Katie calling around 10 a.m. proves that she was aware of Kaylee being, well, harmed. Yet how would she know this unless the housemates had notified others around that time? Of course, none of that is in Dylan's affidavit. No mention of Dylan or Bethany aware of an emergency around 10 a.m. in which they had notified friends. Remember, the call went out around 12 p.m. Those friends knew about the murders earlier than the reported discovery around 12 p.m.
Okay, so I remember seeing this interview. Sorry about that. So I'm going to pause this just because it's obviously the sound is not as good. So I'll let this play and I'll just narrate what's going on. It's my dog. So basically after this, what I did was I just did a live demonstration of how if you go to a search engine and you search the trial, the only place you're going to find it right now is Hulu and the actual ABC website. So you can watch the original 2020 version there, but you can't find it on YouTube. And
so it's on Hulu, you said?
It's on Hulu and it's on ABC, but it's gone from YouTube. And that's where I originally saw it, was on YouTube. There is a couple of little edited bites, maybe 2 minutes. But the one version, and I actually will play it for you. It's coming up. I don't want to get a commercial, so I'm going to play the one that I already I'll pause it when the edit comes. But I mean, I edit a lot of videos. I edit a lot of videos, and I, for one, know when something has been clipped. I'm just going to lock them out.
Yeah,
oh, Jeff, thank you so much. We appreciate the blessing. Thank you.
Oh, Jeff, yeah. Yeah, thank you for the offer of the videos, because that's always terrific to have a place where, you know, we know you do a great job and you have them up there. And so that's terrific. Oh, what happened? I can't hear you, Kitty.
I said, thank you for the blessing, Jeff. And I also said, I'm embarrassed that I have my scrubs and slippers on and my blazer on top. Sorry, you had to see that.
Oh, nobody's noticed.
The Zoom generation. Here we go. So what I'm going to play you is we're going to play the 2020 clip, and you're going to see that there is an edit there, and I've edited a lot of videos, and I can tell when something has been edited. So in my professional opinion, this is an edit, and I'll pause it right beforehand. It's right when she's crying. Had playing before. Bear with me a second. And I want you to pay close attention, because what happens is this was edited, and you can tell because when Katie comes on and talks, she starts crying, and then the sentence that comes back is fragmented. So just listen closely. I'm going to turn the volume up as loud as I can.
Brutally murdered in their beds while they were sleeping. I didn't believe it, for sure. I mean, it didn't make any sense.
I'm going to pause right there. So this is where it happens. She's going to cry, and then you're going to hear the sentence cut out.
See if she was okay.
Right there. See how it got louder? So you can tell that the volume changed there, and it's a fragmented sentence. We'll play it again.
For sure. I mean, it didn't make any sense. See if she was okay.
So you knew she was okay. That's not a complete sentence, you know, and you can tell. So Jaya, what are your immediate thoughts? Just, I know you don't edit videos, but can you?
I don't.
Are
Yeah,
you seeing what I'm seeing?
yeah. And in fact, I'm going to go back after we're done here, and I'm going to watch that 2020 and see the difference. I might try to see if I can save a clip of it, and then we can compare the two. But yeah, I think it seems like she said there was something said before that last part.
We're gonna
Right.
run. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
100%. So
Yeah.
originally in the interview, from what I remember, what Chaos Sector remembers, is she says it was around. She said something along the lines of,
I called
because to see if she was okay
yeah,
at 10 a.m.
right. It seems like they cut out so I was calling at 10 a.m. to see if she was okay. And it seems like they just played that last bit.
Now that's a way to think about it. If she had presented it like that,
I don't know. Yeah.
it felt during the interview, and of course, this is reading what's on someone's heart. If I say that it's for sure, and it's so I don't know. But when she said it, it felt like an inference that there was something going on, that she was following up with, "Are you okay?" But I don't know. Nobody really knows. But we're pointing it out because, again, we're not trying to put our heads in the sand and not look at things that might come up at trial. We're trying to show people there are things out there, anomalies out there that we should be aware of. And I just wanted to say thank you for the super sticker, Jackie Bushel. And then there were just a few more. I'm just looking in here to see if there were any more questions.
Well, Jeff was saying her body position looks the same. I'm thinking it's not an edit. And you're right. I don't edit, so I'm not real familiar with it. I just thought it seems like there might have been something just not edited, but cut out.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jeff. Let's go back, because what they could be doing is a flash, so you can meld them together. A lot of my shorts, I don't know if you guys have seen this. I have over 1,100 shorts on my channel. Many of them are 6 seconds long. Most of them are under 10 seconds. So I am so accustomed to these little split second hits and clips. And I have little tricks that I do to align things so you can't quite tell when I've moved the camera or taken a different angle. So yeah, but let's look at it again from that perspective. Let's see if the frame changes.
Believe it, for sure. I mean, it didn't make any sense.
See?
Right
See
there.
if she was okay.
Right there, it changed. Did you see it?
Do it again.
Okay. That's why it zoomed in, is they make it look like it's for effect, but it's because it got edited.
For sure. I mean, it didn't make any sense. See if she was okay.
There, zoomed in. Do it one more time. Try to not.
See if she was okay. I didn't believe it, for sure. I mean, it didn't make any sense.
There, and boom.
See if she was okay.
I don't know.
Well, they didn't give us, it went from the woman's face, the reporter, the interviewer, to her, and I think in between, I don't think
I
feel
saw
like
three
they
frames.
went mid-sentence when they cut to her.
I definitely see the mid sentence. I saw 3 frames there. So I saw the first one where they got back to the reporter, then they cut back to her, and she was in a full screen. And the way that I see that is by looking at the eye level, and that's also how you line them up. But you can see her face gets bigger, so she's crying. I'll do it one more time. So I see 3 frames, and I'll call them as they go. So there's the reporter, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3.
Yeah.
So that's 1, 2, 3 I see there. So the cut would have been in between frame 2 and frame 3.
Right. Yeah, I think.
One more time.
But also, why would they do that?
Well, that's interesting. I had a private conversation with another creator recently, and we were talking about what possibly we're not seeing. And he suggested from his experience that if there was something that is truly throwing off that PCA, the police might ask you to take it down because it's ruining the narrative. And he would suggest that the police wouldn't allow something to be online, particularly in a mainstream media. I mean, if it's on Crime Circus Cult, I don't know if they're going to treat it the same way they do as 2020. I don't know. So he suggested that it probably was taken down because it was something mainstream that's could possibly ruin the narrative, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and yet it's still up on 2020.
The 10 a.m.
Yeah.
part isn't up on 2020.
It is not.
Well, what I'm suggesting is that's where she would have said 10 a.m.
Right. Okay.
This is the only, and it's nowhere to be found anymore.
Okay. So not even on the Hulu one. So if I go back, it's going to look like this.
That's what I'm proposing. And again, I could be wrong, but I have looked through every 2020 interview on YouTube. I have gone through all of them. This interview is actually not posted in its entirety, as far as I can tell, anywhere else but ABC and Hulu. It used to be on YouTube. I've seen it on YouTube. That's where I originally saw it. There's a 2-minute clip on YouTube, but nowhere is it in full. I went on in this video to show what's on YouTube.
Peter, she was okay.
Okay.
So if you go to YouTube, so this is a YouTube search of 2020 in Idaho, and this is what comes up: a 48 hours interview. Well, let me just make sure you can see that. So that's the top search. Okay, let's just filter this search a little bit. Well, first let's look down. Let's look down here. This appears to be the interview, but it's not. This is put out by Horror in Idaho. Watch what happens when I click on this.
For it to be young.
Look what happens when you skip forward. Oh, it's gone. Click down low. And I couldn't follow the link down below. You better believe me, I tried. And
okay.
so
I'm just
let's
reading.
just go and look down. Oh, here's another one. It's been scrubbed. Look, gone. And
What's
it's not
gone? I
on
don't know what you're
2020.
saying.
It does it. I mean, you guys, maybe you can find it. The 2020 interview is gone.
Oh, it was on there before, you're saying?
The only place I've ever seen it is YouTube, except when I did this research the other day.
Okay.
And I went onto the ABC and Hulu website. And so, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm not explaining this well enough, but what I could do is we could look at chaos. I mean, chaos section.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying, look at Jeff's comment. As a video editor for 30 years, that's my final answer. And I think
he had one too.
Yeah, he's the expert. We know I'm not.
Well, I'm an expert too. Okay. Yeah, people can professionally have different opinions. I totally respect Jeff's opinion too. Absolutely. I do see 3 frames. So regardless if they edited out 10 a.m., they definitely that's a cut there. You can't have a zoom in and a full screen and not, right. And that's an edit.
And also I think the point is you've heard it, right? You've heard her say that when you've watched the interview in the past. So it's like, okay, I did hear it. It was there, and now it isn't. So however they managed that through edits or whatnot, you know.
Yeah, and like I said, Chaos Sector, really what I'm doing is I'm kind of just backing up another creator who did a great video on this, Chaos Sector, and they, again, this is as far as they tell us, they're a group of journalists and reporters, and they do a really good job. I have no reason to not think that because the material is just so well done. And they were the first ones to come out and say, this is a 10 a.m. She claimed on this 2020 interview, she texts Kaylee because of this at 10 a.m. So I just wanted to do my own work and go back and find them say that. And that's what I found. Nothing.
Yeah, you can't find it.
Yeah, and other people have commented too when I presented this in a live stream, and they've said they heard it as well. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to beat a dead horse, not to give a really bad phrase, but I just wanted to show you guys what I've seen because I'm trying to just present to you. I think you're all smart enough to come up with your own theories, your own ideas on things. So I just want to show you what I see and see what you guys think. Let's see. I remember that too. I showed that clip. I had that in another live stream called Anomalies Before the 911 Call. And I found that was very weird, but that would back up the PCA, right?
What was weird? Bethy's comment?
Right. So it was a really odd clip. I could play it if you guys wanted to. But
about the neighbor?
Yeah, but what the neighbor said is he didn't hear any commotion at 11:45, and the PCA makes it. The PCA states that, and I think we just went over this morning. It was 10:58. Oh, are you needed elsewhere?
No, it's fine.
I think we were talking about this morning. The PCA states that 911 was called at 11:58. So that statement by a neighbor would back up the PCA, but it's just so little amount of time for for all of this to happen. Let's see what else we got here. Yes, and so that's exactly what it said, Jesselyn. And although it didn't say it directly, it almost inferred like she was calling for a reason, like she had been alerted to something, and that's why. If I had to guess, if it really is an edit, I would imagine that was why. I don't know. I shouldn't speculate. I should just show you guys so you can make your own decisions, though. I don't think Bryan had an address in Ohio, in Idaho. I'm sorry.
No, he lived
in Washington. Let's see.
Which was just 11 miles away. So, because he's right over the border. What is Jeff saying here? It's a cut for sure, but you can see the green blanket in the background is no longer behind her shoulder. So it's a different camera that's to the right of the first camera. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing too. So from 8:30, if the PCA, if we're going to use the PCA, which we should as our guiding post, that door was left open on a cold November morning from 8:30 to noon. Before nobody noticed that either.
Yeah. And Dean also says that he saw the video with her saying she called Kay in the morning. So.
Thank you so much.
Yes, because otherwise you're feeling crazy, right? Like someone's gaslighting you.
Thank you, Dean. And I don't want anyone to think that I'd be misguiding them, that I would say something that I didn't think was
right.
True. Thank you, Dean, so much. That's another, the odor thing. Remember when CJ said that really interesting statement the other night on his live stream about the odor? So we were on Evil CJ's live stream.
Mm-hmm.
He stated he had a job at one time where he was exposed to, I don't know how to say it, maybe bodily fluids, but he wasn't necessarily just talking about blood. He was talking about other things that happen in these types of injuries. And the question, he said that it was more strong than smelling salt when you smelled these odors. And I asked him, I go, well, he said it was 5 times stronger. I said, well, if it's that much stronger than smelling salt, if you smelt it, would it wake you up? And he said, without a doubt.
Yeah. And as he was saying that, as we were listening, the only problem was it's not going to smell like that right away, right? So it takes a few hours before it amps up to that level of a smell. I think that's what he was saying. So maybe at 8:30 you might not smell anything, but by noon you certainly would have. And like he was saying, he didn't even think people would be able to stay in the house. The odor would be so overpowering.
Maybe because of the construction of the house, it was like
I don't know.
confined to certain areas. I don't know. I was watching Cluminati's live stream last night, and Cletus said something really interesting where he goes, it's so funny, you know, when we hear these cases, oftentimes it's that first report that ends up being like the most accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And the first report was that both girls were on the bottom floor.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting.
If it is true, that would explain why maybe smell was contained.
Yes. And JS is saying in the comments too, I used to hunt, and as you come up on a dead carcass outside, you know it's there. And now contain that in a single rooms, right? So enclosed. So he's saying it's such a strong smell when you're outside in the open. Imagine putting that into an enclosed space, and then that's going to really multiply like the pungent smell, I would think. I think that's his point.
And I'm
And
trying so hard to find the comment so I can put it up, you guys. I'm sorry, JS. I want to present that
fast. It's
really
coming
insightful.
towards the end a little. 11:49 a.m.
Oh, okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, Jeff, no. Hold on.
No. That's
Wait.
my point.
What was it?
Keep going down to.
Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, thank you.
And then he said earlier he corroborated also hearing the call that she made the call.
I really appreciate that, JS. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then now contain that in a single room.
Right.
Continue the thought.
Like it'd be crazy you couldn't hear that. I mean, smell that. Like.
Oh wait, this is an interesting one from Robin.
Because she's saying someone said that the DNA. Who did she say? Brat Norton. She said, let's talk about that. I have a Brat Norton on a recording from her live on TikTok that the unknown DNAs are Jake and Jack D.
I wonder how. Well, they didn't run profiles on them. Is there a quicker or more simplistic way you could match someone, like without going through the? I don't know. How would they have known that if they didn't do workups on the unknown DNAs? Because I heard them say in open court, right? Right, Gia? Did you ever hear them say in open court they didn't do workups on those two DNAs?
I didn't hear that, but I also hadn't heard anything. I've only heard there was DNA from 2 unknown males, but never anything further than that. I mean, it's possible, but I don't,
Because I remember Taylor.
Yeah.
No, what were you saying?
I would like to see the Brat Norton clip about that.
I'd love to see it too. I have trouble with a lot of Brat Norton's material. It's been made private. You know that because we're working on a video right now, just to continue some conversations on other stuff we've been having on the channel. We're not going to get into it, but so we've had to go to Brat Norton on TikTok for some of this material, and she makes a lot of her stuff private.
Right. So
it's really hard to get the in. Anyway.
Yeah, so Bathory, if you happen to have that, we would love for you to share it.
What is she?
She's saying, I can't tell if she says I have Brat Norton on a recording from her live TikTok that the unknown DNAs are Jake and Jack D.
Oh my gosh, we would love to hear that. Hold on, let me put our email up.
11:47. Yep.
Okay, hold on. This is the best email to get things to us. You could try sending it to my business email, but it's I don't monitor it. I only monitor it very briefly, but I'll put this up. Did the comment go through?
Which one are you putting?
Oh, there it is. There we go.
Yes,
So
booking.peruse.
it's yeah,
No, that's
booking.peruse.com.
at gmail.com.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, we should probably edit that. Oh, I can't. At gmail.
Jeff, Swamp Rose, do you have a link to that 2020 video? Not beating a dead horse, just smacking it around a little. I love your humor. I love it.
Sir. Hold on. I'll do that while I'm live because then I could put it in the live chat. In Idaho. And let me make sure I'm getting you the ABC version because, like I said, everything on YouTube sucks about this. Right
I'm going to
there.
look it up on Hulu when we're off. And
Yeah,
just
maybe
see.
Hulu has better results, or maybe something's
I don't know.
clearer.
I'll check it out.
There you go, Jeff. That's a link to it on Bing. Or no, that should be a link directly to the website. And I don't know if they weren't able to, but the quote that I was referencing is Ann Taylor. We all thought this is when she was trying to create confusion in court, and she turned to the prosecutors and said, we've requested these workups on these two DNAs. And the prosecutor turned and said, hey, it's not that we're not giving you these profiles, is that we never even did them. And the only thing I could think of, and again, I have no background to this is purely speculation, but I know that the best friend of Ethan, which is allegedly Hunter, because Hunter told us that, if he was checking his pulse and told them to call 911, they would know there'd be one unknown DNA there. And there was I've heard up to 20 people outside of that house, but there was definitely a handful of people there when the police arrived, per their statement. And so one of them could have been another male who maybe was there, who they knew. All I could think is they knew there were going to be two. I don't know. I have nothing. What do you think, Gia?
I'm sorry, I was responding to my son. He's come from school today, and so I was like, oh.
I know, and I've kept this live stream a lot longer than I was.
That's all right.
Oh, Jeff, thank you. Yeah, so I should probably let you go. I've kept all of you long enough. Please let us know your thoughts. We really, we have a lot we want to talk to you about. There's only so much we can cover in a live stream, and we want to start the conversation. So please leave your comments below. And we God bless all of you. Thank you for being here and supporting us. Wait, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the profiles was in that glove, I believe. There was two in the house, or we don't know where the other two samples were, and then a glove that wasn't tested.
But isn't it interesting? I would think there would be like 100 DNA, samples, because there's so many people in that house. How did they narrow it down to just 2 or 3?
And how do they? I don't know. Maybe it's because they only have, how many pieces of evidence do you think a detective would normally collect? Because everyone says 100 and it's like 120 or 140 pieces of evidence, and everyone says that's so outrageously low for evidence.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is.
It is.
Well, yeah. I mean, you think like if they're bagging and tagging every little thing, every piece of furniture in the house, every scrap of everything that they collected, I would think you'd get to 140 very quickly. A strand of hair is one. So it seems low. I'm sure they have more than that. I mean, just taking apart his car alone, there's going to be more than 140 pieces of evidence.
Yeah. I mean, I know, and I know there's so many little things they do, like vacuuming, special vacuums, and carpets, and I don't know. I know that one of the things I've heard often is sometimes police have to make a choice between, are we going to fingerprint this, or are we going to luminol this, or are we going to collect the DNA from this? Like, you can't do everything to every little piece of evidence.
Right.
So, maybe they were immediately looking for fingerprints or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, but I don't know where the number 140 came from, but I think that it has to be much higher than that.
Jeff, we've had this conversation before. So as far as touch DNA outdoors, it's something, it probably wouldn't have any touch DNA left on it after 7 days. But if it was indoors, it'd be a different story, but it's still limited. But other forms of DNA, possibly, like if it were, something else, bodily fluid of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, again, non-expert. Comes back as address.
No, she wants
God. Hold on, let me try again.
I didn't know what you put up, but it's the Peru sisters.
Oh, I gave a second one. Let me put it up. I'm sorry. The Peru sisters at gmail.com. Any tips? I mean, we even would, we'd even like if you have something.
Okay, that's not correct. It's the Peru sisters.
Oh, goodness.
That's why it's not. That's why it's bouncing back to her. Just because I made that same mistake the other day.
I'm sorry, you guys. All right, so third time's a charm.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Give that a try.
All right. And with that, God bless all of you. Thank you for joining us today. And we're just doing all of this, the spirit of justice for the Idaho 4.